Let's hook together today. Spring flowers blooming pink blanket pattern clothes. Before crocheting, let's see which line is the method. Aim our left palm at our big face. Put the braided thread from the little finger end, the seam in the middle of the ring finger, around from front to back. Bypass the middle finger. Bypass the index finger from back to front. Homeopathically pass to the middle finger and thumb. Pinch the tail of the braided thread. Just leave a length of 3 cm to 5 cm. Then take the crochet. The hook of the crochet is in at our big face. Place the crochet behind the braided thread. We start with the needle from 28 lock pins. Place the crochet behind the braiding thread, then crochet, winding. Pull out from behind the tail line. So there's a coil on the crochet. Use your thumb and middle finger to pinch where the coils are crossed. Then the crochet belt line hooks the coil on the crochet. We hook the first lock pin. The lock pin is shaped like a pigtail. After the first lock needle is hooked, we're on the first lock pin. Pull up the two-sided hookup button of the pigtail. The method of all unhook number buckles in the back. It's both sides of the lock pin braid. Here, hang up the number buckle. Then continue crocheting the lock stitches in the same way. A total of 28 lock pins are hooked. Crochet the coil on the crochet line. Always keep the tightness of the crochet coil the same. Loosen your hands when hooking the blanket. The blanket hooked in this way is relatively soft. Crochet with thread. Hook the coil on the crochet. Your luck must be even. The stitch is drawn like this. The size is relatively uniform. The 28 stitches of the lock needle are hooked. Then hook the first row. The first line is mainly used. Pick up the short of a thread on the outside of the lock pin. Needle crochet method and short. Crochet method of needle. A sharp hook. 2 lock pins, upright pins. Then rewind 1 stitch. On the 27th lock pin, pick up the lock pin. A thread on the braid goes into the needle. Then hook the short needle. Crochet with thread. Hook out the quill on the crochet. There are 2 quills on the crochet. Then crochet with thread. Hook out the 2 quills on the crochet. We hook the first short needle. This little braid and this little braid. We hooked the child. Locking pin, standing pin. Then we put the short needles next to each other. Lock needle, braid needle on. Pick up both sides of the braid. Mark buckle. The lock pin behind the flag number. It's our first line. Initial needle. Then adjust the lock pin in the same way. The top edge of a small braid needle. Keep crocheting short stitches. Crochet with thread, hook out. Crochet 2 coils on the crochet. Hook the second short needle. Needle insertion. At the position of the first lock pin hanging number buckle, pick up the needle and insert the needle on both sides. Crochet on line. Crochet with thread, hook last short stitch. So the first line, we hook up the needle. After taking the first line, the side of the knitting facing us is the front. The tail line left by the needle will be in the lower left corner of the knit. Then the hook knitting, the side with the marker buckle hanging in the lower left corner. It's the front of the knit. After the first line is ticked, we will start ticking the second line. When crocheting a single piece, line 2, we need the reverse side of the fabric. Crochet, then flip the fabric from right to left. Crochet the second row from the reverse side of the fabric. 1 lock needle plus 27 short needles. First, hook a lock needle and a standing needle. Crochet with line hook out. Hook the first lock pin, then on the first lock pin, pick up both sides of the needle, mark buckle. After hanging the mark buckle, sew on the next stitch. You crochet the next stitch. A total of 27 short needles are hooked. Second row crochet, we can mainly understand on the reverse side of the weave, short needle crochet method for picking needles from the previous row. On the first stitch, we hooked a lock pin's upright pin. Then on the second needle, the position of the needle insertion is on the left side of the needle purpose. When inserting the needle, you need to pay attention after inserting the needle. Picked up both sides of the needle at the same time. Then crochet with thread. Hook the coil on the crochet. Crochet with thread. Hook out the 2 coils on the crochet. We just hooked a short needle. Then insert the needle at the position on the left side of the next needle. Pick up both sides of the needle. Crochet with thread hook out. Crochet with thread to hook the 2 coils on the crochet. Hook the second short needle. Use the same method. The needle is inserted on the left side of the needle mesh. Pick up both sides of the needle. Crochet with line hook out. Crochet with thread to hook the coil on the crochet. Just hook the short needle. Then continue crocheting short stitches in the same method. A total of 27 short needles are hooked. We'll hook the second row. Lock pin at the hook number buckle, needle in the needle. Crochet with line hook out. Line 2 is hooked, then we will weave. Turn from right to left, then on the front of the knit, we continue to crochet line 3. Start with the third line, singular lines on the front of the production. We crochet long needles and pull needles. Long needle pulling needle. Jujube-shaped positive pulling needle for medium and long needles. To achieve the prominent pattern on the pattern clothes, hook a lock pin on the third line, 14 short needles, a long needle pulling needle, 2 short needles, a long needle pulling needle, 1 long needle pulling needle and 8 short needles. First hook a lock needle and a standing needle. Then hang the mark buckle on the lock pin upright pin. Then from the front of the branch, pick up the stitches in the previous row. Start crocheting. The method is the same. On the first stitch, we hooked a lock pin, a standing pin, then continue crocheting the short stitches on the second stitch. Position of the needle, also on the left side of the needle. Insert the needle and adjust the 2 sides of the needle. Then hook with thread. Hook short needle. A total of 14 short stitches are hooked. Be sure to pay attention when inserting the needle. After inserting the needle, adjust the 2 sides of the needle path. "14 short needles are done. Then we hook a long needle pulling needle. Let's take a look. Crocheting method of long needle positive pull needle. First, crochet with thread. There are 2 quills on the crochet. Then, at the position of the 16th pin in the first row, inject the needle from right to left. and then wear out. Pick up the stitch of the 16th stitch in the first row, then crochet with thread. After the hook is ticked, there are 3 calls on the crochet. Then crochet with thread to hook the first 2 quills on the crochet. Then crochet with thread, hook the last 2 quills on the crochet. After the long needle is pulled and the needle is hooked, the needle is floating on the entire branchlet. Prominent pattern. We're going to crochet 2 more stitches. The position of entering the needle is beyond the long needle and pulling the needle. The short stitch of the lower knit is stitched forward 1 stitch. Needle insertion. Let's keep crocheting short stitches. Then we hook another long needle and pull the needle. Crochet with thread. The position of the needle is at the 18th pin position in the first row. Short needle. From right to left through the crochet into the needle. Crochet with line hook out. The crochet line hooks out the first 2 quills on the crochet. The crochet line hooks out the last 2 quills on the crochet. We're hooked. The second long needle is pulling the needle. Then we hook a long needle pulling needle. The position of the needle is at the same 18th needle position. The short needle and the long needle are pulling the needle. Crochet with thread. Crochet with thread again. There are 3 calls on the crochet at the same time. Then at the same pin position, inject the needle from right to left. Then crochet with thread. Hook the coil on the crochet. You can see at this time there are 4 quills in the crochet. Then crochet with thread to hook out the first 2 quills on the crochet. Then crochet with thread to hook out the last 2 quills. Then crochet with thread, hook out the last 2 quills of the crochet. So we hook the pulling needle of the long needle. So this long needle is pulling the needle and the long needle is pulling the needle. 2 stitches have been crocheted forward. We continue to crochet the 8 stitches. Position of the needle. You need to go over the long needle and pull the needle, and long needle, pulling needle. 2 stitches corresponding to the fabric. Insert the needle into the 3rd needle. Keep crocheting. Hook 8 short needles. Insert the needle at the position of the buckle. Hook the last short needle. We tick the 3rd line. After the 3rd line is ticked, we flip the producer from right to left. Hook the 4th line from the reverse side of the producer. Double vertical line. They are all hooks, a lock needle, a standing needle, and 27 short needles. First hook a lock pins upright needle, then button the phone well. Then enter the left position after the next needle. Needle main needle crochet short needle. A total of 27 short needles are hooked. Insert the needle in the front position of the last marked buckle. Hook the last short needle. We take the 4th line, and then we are going to flip this piece from right to left. Then we start to tick the 5th line. Line 5 hook a lock pin, 13 short needles, a long needle pulling needle, hook 3 short needles, 3 long needle pulling needles, 1 long needle pulling needle, and 6 short needles. Hook a lock pin first, a standing pin. Hang up well buckle. We crochet the stitches in the next stitch. Bamboo needle hook 13 short needles. Then hook a long needle and pull the needle. Crochet with thread. Exist. The long needle below is pulling the needle on the position. Inject the needle from right to left. Then crochet with thread to hook out. There are 3 calls on the crochet. Then crochet with thread. Hook out the first 2 calls on the crochet. Crochet with thread to hook the last 2 quills on the crochet. It's hooked. A long needle. A pulling needle. The long needle is pulling. After the needle hook is done, we are corresponding to the long needle and the pulling needle. The position of the next needle mesh is inserted into the needle. Continue crocheting the 3 short needles. Then hook to long needles and pull needles. They are all the corresponding length below. Needle is pulling the needle and penetrates the needle horizontally. Just crochet it. Crochet with thread. Needle insertion. Insertion line. As always, crochet with thread. Hook out the first 2 quills of crochet. Crochet with line, hook out the back 2 quills on the crochet. Hooked a long needle and pulling needle. Then hook a long needle and pull the needle. Crochet with thread in the same position across the needle. Crochet with line, hook out. Hook with line, hook the first 2 quills on the crochet. Crochet with line, hook the last 2 quills on the crochet. We just hooked 2 long needles and are pulling needles. Then we hook another long needle and pull the needle. Cross penetrate the needle on the next long needle, pulling needle. Then hook the positive pull needle of a long needle. Also here, a long needle is pulling the needle and passing through the needle. Crochet with thread. Insert crochet with thread, hook out. Crochet with line, hook out the first 2 quills on the crochet. Crochet with thread, hook out on crochet the last 2 quills. Then hook a long needle and pull the needle. Crochet with thread again. Then in the same position across the needle. Crochet with thread. Tick. There are a total of 4 quills on the crochet after hooking it out. Crochet with thread. Just take out 2 or 2 quills. We hooked 2 long needles and are pulling needles. A long needle pulling needle and a long needle pulling needle. There are 4 stitches in total. Then we are at the 1234th corresponding to the woven sheet. On the 5th stitch, insert stitches and continue crocheting short stitches. A total of 6 short needles are hooked. After connecting the position crochet, hook the last short needle. The 5th line is hooked.